Hello, online apologetic students. I want to introduce your work this week and some of the thoughts that you will be looking at in the material by telling you about a place where we are here, which happens to be one of my favorite spots on planet Earth. We are at the entryway to a path. This is actually the beginning of a pathway that goes down this hill here and then enters the forest that you can see in the background and follows a trail through the woods and ends at a beautiful, isolated, remote, small lake that no buildings exist on. There are no roads to it except for this pathway, and no routes for people to take their boats. And it's just an absolutely beautiful escape that I spent my summers as a preteen and then as a teenager visiting. We would come here and we would camp at night. We would fish during the day. We had special permission from the group that owned this place, the club that owns this property and has for many years. And we would go out in the morning and we would get into our canoe and we would fish and catch fish all day, and we would swim in the afternoons, and then we would have a campfire at night and we would sleep in our tents at night. And even later, when I was old enough to get a job and I needed to work, whenever we had the time, we would come here on weekends in some off time, me and some of my buddies, and we would camp here. It's a beautiful place. And I want you to think about knowledge and words and ideas as being like a path. There's something that we use to lead people, or that even we use to follow to get us somewhere. And when we talk about truth, we talk of words and ideas and knowledge as something that takes us to an ultimate goal. And as Christian believers, we believe that the ultimate goal is something very wonderful and very beautiful, and that's why I wanted you to come here today at the beginning of this path, so that we could think about the beginning of the path of knowledge about God and life and truth and the Christian message as a pathway that leads people places and ultimately takes them to a very wonderful place, and that is our ultimate place with God in eternity and with His people. This week's material in Phillips and Oakholm is chapter 6, and you're going to find that it is a very challenging chapter. It's a chapter that brought up some issues that have been a real challenge to my own faith before, and that I have had to give a lot of thought on as I have considered this. And you will also find it, simply as I did, just challenging in its content. I don't want you to worry with chapter 6 if you feel like you have to look up a lot of words, or you don't understand a lot of these names of these philosophers or ideas that they're talking about. If you need to pull out a dictionary or you need to Google them, that's fine. And I did on some of them. The more that you look up, the more you will get out of the chapter. But more than I want you to gather everything from chapter 6, I want you to catch the main point of what this author is addressing. From a Christian perspective and Christian assumptions, he's addressing the postmodern perspective that is exemplified or is taught most clearly from someone by the name of Rorty. His last name Rorty, and his teaching or his philosophy of ironism. You're not going to be tested on ironism, but what the gist of it is it's something in postmodernity that has to do with what we call deconstruction, where we deconstruct the faith. It has to do with getting at what faith really consists of. And in Rorty's words, and in that school of philosophy, faith, truth especially, and reality, which we would affirm is the reality of God and the reality of the scriptures and life and meaning based on those things, and that they speak truthfully to them. Rorty and that school of philosophy teaches that we as human beings really have no ability to access reality, intellectually speaking or psychologically speaking. That we really have no ability to understand truth, because truth as we know it and as we call it is based entirely on the human capacity of reason and speech. with our high function of reasoning that sets us apart from the rest of the living world of animals and things and creatures, our ability to reason gives us an ability to speak and use words to form meaning and understanding about life. And as humans, tied to our history, we use words to speak about truth and to form our understanding of reality. And now that all sounds normal, it does to me and probably will to you, but Rorty and others say, because of that, because our understanding of truth and reason is a product of our speech and our words, ideas, which then become sets of beliefs, words that become sets of beliefs, ideas and ideology, that they're not actually true and they're not actually real. They are simply creations of the human ability to reason at a higher level. And in this school of philosophy, which is very much a part of postmodern perspective and thinking, even if the postmoderner doesn't know who Rorty is and doesn't use these words, the only thing that is real and true is that which we can perceive and ascertain from within ourselves as we interact with the natural world, life, and survival. Rather than truth being something that we can talk about and that could be passed on from others through words and communication, giving us ideas, helping us to reason and understand ultimate things about meaning and purpose and God and life, life really has no truth to it except for the functioning of the day-to-day in our survival, living off of the earth, interacting with others, and somehow trying to interact in such a way that we can survive. This is my best take on what is happening behind the scenes in postmodern thinking, and especially with some of the more complicated or technical things you're going to get in chapter 6. The main idea being that truth, as we call something truth, and reality as we like to believe we can understand reality, is actually no truth and no reality at all. It is a mere creation of our words and our ideas or our ideology. The implications of that are very severe, directly tied to religion, faith, and Christianity. That the Christian version of truth is nothing more than a created set of ideas, a reality that is fabricated or created out of the words and the communication and the stories that have been told by others, passed on to give their generation, to give their life and being a sense of purpose and meaning, and to reach forward beyond what we can see in the here and now to understand reality. This postmodern way of thinking is accurate in saying that truth and understanding and meaning comes, at least to us, through the vehicle of words, through deconstruction. But what is mistaken, I believe, and what you will find from this author, is that simply because it comes to us through words, reason, and understanding, that therefore it is not something that is real. Only what is in the here and now in the physical world is real. The outcome of that ultimately, that kind of thinking, is nihilism. Everything is ultimately meaningless. There is no path of understanding that leads somewhere beautiful, ultimate, out there, someday or somewhere, that life somehow has something beyond what we see in the here and now. Actually, all that is there, according to this way of thinking, this is what's behind the mindset of postmodernity, is that reality is nothing more than what we see here as we can understand it in our interaction in daily life. And I want you to think about this as you're reading in chapter 6, this idea of words and reason, not just being some kind of accidental outcome of human evolution that gives us this high form of reason that really is nothing more than a complication to our ability to live and survive, which is, I would say, is a part of what is being said in this postmodern framework. But that actually words and reason are gifts to us, mysterious gifts, by which we are able to live in the here and now, but stay connected to something that is further and is more than and is more ultimate than what we have in the day-to-day here and now. Words are a gift. They are a vehicle. They are a powerful tool that God has given us and that humans have above any other creature living on the earth, using with our reason the ability to speak and to give understanding to one another so that we will base our lives not just on what is immediate here and now so that we can survive and feel good and be happy, whatever that might be for the day, but that we can base our lives on things that are ultimate, things that are more than the here and now, things that cause us to live in a way that brings about human flourishing and that causes us to serve and to love and causes us to have hope and joy in life because there is more meaning than just what is in the here and now. I don't think that that is an accident or some kind of complication to our beings as humans. I believe it is a gift of God. Human language, understanding, and reason are tools that we have. They are mysterious and they are very powerful, and we are able to use them to form our whole view of life and world and meaning, and then base our actions, base our beliefs, base our understanding, and how we are going to live upon those groups of beliefs and understanding. And then that connects directly with faith as tradition. In the Christian tradition, all through history, we believe that God has been giving words and ideas to the prophets, to the priests, to the leaders, through Jesus, to the apostles, for us as Scripture, and then has continued to use those and continued to speak to his people so that we are able to pass on understanding and with our reasoning be able to perceive and understand how we should live and how we should believe. Words are a gift. They are not a meaningless function of human life. Understanding and reasoning is a profoundly mysterious gift that God has given us so that we can live a life that is more than just in the here and now. I would like you to have some of that thinking in the background as you're reading through chapter 6. And again, the more that you look up some of these philosophers and names, this is a very technical chapter, so much so that I almost thought about not having you read it. But if you have some of these ideas that I just shared with you in the background, it will help you understand. So that's chapter 6. You want to make sure you complete that by the end of the week according to the instructions in your syllabus as we think about being believers in the postmodern world. And then you also have an assignment to watch a video this week. It's a video that I gave to a small group of students in a sit-down session in a classroom where we were talking about some of these things. And I want you to pay attention in this video to the idea of certainty. There's one section in this video, it's about an hour long, so you may want to space it out in several viewings during the week so that you can really take it in and take notes. And I want you to pay careful attention to the one section in the video where I speak about the idea of Christian certainty about truth and ideas. That we are certain about the things we call true. This is one of the big points of rejection for postmoderners. How can you be so certain about something that is merely existing in words and ideas? That you are saying what is true and is ultimate about life and God and meaning and purpose is based upon sets of words that we use and speak to one another. And you see how this is connected to what is in chapter 2. I want you to pay attention to my talk on certainty and then also the wording that is behind me on a slide at the time that says, in our post-Christendom society, the ancient trust and certainty of the Christian church of yesterday is being replaced by the relativity and immediacy of an individualistic society that has come of age. The certainty of truth, those words and those ideas that have been passed on to us from previous generations and continue to be passed on to us in the text of Scripture and then in the testimony of those who live and have faith today and who have spoken into our lives. This is a point of rejection for postmoderners who say that we can't be so certain about things from the past, especially things that are based in an ancient text. I want you to think about that, about this rejection and this objection that postmoderners have. And in your assignment this week, integrating the thoughts from that video and then the thoughts in chapter 6 on the idea of certainty, which begins on page 116 and ends on page 120. I'll give that to you in chapter 6. Join those two together, and in your post, you are going to put this challenge to the faith, this postmodern challenge, deconstructing truth based on words and ideas. Put it into your own words. You can still use technical language if you'd like, but I'd like to see that you're understanding it by putting it in your own words. Number one. And number two, your thoughts on how to address this challenge to the faith. Number one, in your own words, how do you understand this challenge of postmodern frameworks about words and ideas and their relationship to truth? Put it in your own words. Number two, what are your thoughts on addressing this? Meaning, if you were in a conversation with someone who had this very popular and very common objection from postmoderners, how would you address that? How would you answer that? How can we look at truth and its relationship to words and ideas? Imagine yourself talking with a friend who has a very sincere question, very troubled by this idea of truth being based on words as something that is not enough to say it's real and true. And then you will add your post to the week 2 online discussion posting in Populi, linked under the discussion tabs. You click on week 2 and there you will add your post, and you will have all the instructions, and some of these very things I'm saying to you now are there laid out for you so that you can review them and know what you're supposed to do. I've given you all the information there. And your posting will be due by Friday, this Friday at midnight. And then by Saturday at midnight, you will want to go back in and respond to a classmate's post and what they have to say about it. I believe that words and ideas are a gift from God. He's given us to understand what is real and true. And just like this morning, if I wanted to, I could walk down this beautiful path and end at that spectacular pond, small lake in the forest. I believe that the words of Scripture and the words of faith that have been passed on to us and that continue to be given to us in the text of Scripture, in the testimonies of others today, speak to what is real and what is true, and that there's more to life than just the here and now of survival. So I hope you enjoy your week, your reading this week and your work. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I'll be looking forward to interacting with you.